gentlemen, welcome to Friday Night Lights on the Dapper Baboon Show. Once again, the Dapper Baboon Show. And in another way, the Dapper Baboon Show. Welcome. I am your host, Bo Henry, and I am here, as always, with my co-host, David Casel. David, how are you this fine evening?
I'm doing so good, dude. The goodest I've ever gooded.
Okay. Yeah. So what's so good about good and the good?
I'm just on the path of enlightenment, dog. I've been taking a lot of inventory of the things around me and just sort of bettering my life on all fronts. I've started jogging. I'm learning lots of different things at work and new ways to be successful in the things that I've already done. Learning better, people skills and trying to learn, different ways to sort of, try to be humble about it and try to learn instead of, just constantly innovate or do my own thing. About you, Bo?
So I mean, ladies and gentlemen, that's what Dapper Baboon Show here is all about. It's all about self-enlightenment, taking that inventory of yourself, finding some things you can do better, try to do better in those things, and when you fuck up, you fail forward. So that's what we are proponents of here on the show. It's hard having all this responsibility for all the millions of listeners out there for making their life better.
It is something I really want to do. I like, seeing people get better and become smarter and stronger and more emotionally intelligent and stuff like that. I've noticed, though, there's always challenges and temptation and things when at each level of like success and understanding that you have. Like when there's always somebody when you're telling them about your success or when you're, kind of explaining the path that you've taken or would like to take, there's a few people that will try to test what you're all about. They'll try to make sure that you're authentic in their own way. And I think maybe some people do it in a way because they want to see you fail. Like it's more fun to watch a car wreck than it is to believe somebody that is, really and truly like on a path to something. And, people want to try to take it away from, not really take it away from you, but just test you constantly. And it may not be really like obvious and in your face, but there are always different sort of levels of trust that you have to have in yourself and decisions that you make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be haters. I mean, haters going to hate. And not only necessarily that, but I mean, sometimes though those people are pushing you to be better. And sometimes those people may not necessarily be pushing you to be better out of a sense of altruism, out of some sense of hoping that you succeed, hoping that you reach your goals and stuff, but out of jealousy, pride, or anger, or anything along those lines. But sometimes those people can push you more than somebody who is actually more supportive and there for you because they love or care about you. A lot of times the haters can really give you some motivation.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's lots of things too like that. Like specifically, and sometimes with love, it's very, very like intoxicating to people. If if someone wants to talk about like relationships or the things that they're in, they always have. There are very few like true little real genuine relationships that I've ever seen or witnessed or known about or even been in myself, that it's like when you try to tell somebody, and I guess different people, it doesn't matter, that you're in love with someone. Like they're like, what? They just can't understand why, you would do things that you do and, you know, sacrifice some of the stuff that you would sacrifice, and they don't ever really believe it's love. They think it's some sort of like, obsession or desire or like some other emotion because, they just, it's weird to somebody that you just love someone unconditionally, and it doesn't matter. There's no currency that they have to have or give you to earn that. And, some people, I think it's hard for them to relate to because they're like, well, I mean, I got to love them for like a reason. No, you don't. You can just love someone because you do, like, because you just feel that way. And there's not and if you want to challenge it, like, well, how do you know? What do you love about? What is it, these things? And it's like, of course I can rattle off every poetic fucking answer in the world for, what love means and what it's about. But I can never make someone understand what it's like to be in love with somebody. There's not really, nobody has like an explanation for what it means. And,
yeah,
and it always
I think we covered this. Yeah. I think we covered this in the 80s, though, man, with that song. Like, I want to know what love is. I want to know what love is.
Yeah,
I mean, that last note on that first, I ran out of air. I was like, I want to know what love is.
Well, I know one thing too is this thing I've used like as an avoidocopter, and it's kind of like a tactic to where, and some of these things, and it happens with girls and guys, and back and forth. But when you're like in love with somebody, people want to constantly test it. Like if they'll try to seduce you in some ways that like blah blah blah. They could offer you something different. Like it's like I don't. It's when you reach like a level of when you're past when you can recognize it or you don't. You're just like I don't. There's no interest in that for me. I'm sorry. Like, but and you are friends with people. And usually I talk to this girl a lot named Critten. Well, her name's not Critten, but that's like her pseudonym. But she always has lots and lots of guys like messaging her about just the weirdest shit. And like this one dude, the most recent one, was saying he was a dark sorcerer and he's been practicing magic for 25 years. And I mean, some of the stories were absolutely hilarious. Like he was like, I'm so good at cunnilingus. I'm sure he used eating pussy or whatever, but he was like, that I make them crawl up the wall, like up the bed frame, up onto the wall, and I continue to keep going. And the things that he's like, every 99 out of 100 women can't resist my advances. Here's what I do. Sometimes I just start with looking. And like he just wrote all these, like he's like, and then, soft touching. He's like, if, once the hands follow, your lips can, and he's just like being super creepy and weird. And she's like sending me screenshots of what he's saying. And I'm like egging her. I'm like, dude, okay, say this. Like, and she's not saying the shit that I'm telling her to say, but it's like really, really funny. I was like, well, tell them you can only do one spell, and you have to conduct it with your anus. And I was like, it's called the diarrhea-hedron, and you can only communicate with other anal wizards through this spell, but it's the only one you know. And we were just like clowning on this dude. But it's like when somebody knows, like, nope, I'm in love, thank you, like I'm good. I'm not interested in sex with you. Like we can talk about funny stuff, we can be friends. And they don't want to talk about funny stuff and like be friends. They still have this like belief that you're somehow like pretending that you're not going to have sex with them or something, like that they can just win you over in some way. And trying to like balance the conversation between people like that, like, hey, I'll be your friend, like in a legitimate, actual, real friendship where we're homies and we fucking, I have no problem with that. I was like, but you need to understand, like, I'm not gonna fuck you. There's no sexual thing. There's not any like, be okay with that, and like, be okay with it because I feel that for someone else, not because like I don't like you or that I'm too good for you or that you're too like none of those feelings are present. And that's the thing when you're like dealing with people's egos and different stuff like that. It's very hard to like try to like be a genuine person to people because it always goes some weird sort of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, don't you think that that's kind of problematic for a lot of relationships though? So you mentioned something that I thought was interesting. So let's say, for instance, that you are in a loving, caring, committed relationship, right? But you're
Mhm.
also saying that there may be people of the opposite sex who are getting in contact with you, wanting to go out on dates, wanting to fuck, do whatever or anything. Don't you think that, I mean, your response of being like, well, no, but we can be friends and we can be cool and stuff. Let's say you are in a relationship where I unconditionally love this person. You don't think that's kind of like, keeping somebody on the side or something? Like I know that I would have a problem with, and I know my girlfriend would also have a problem with me in this sense too, for me keeping company with people of the other sex as friends who have expressed interest in wanting to have sex with me.
So here's the thing, and like I said, that has a lot to do with ego and a lot to do with insecurity and a lot to do with trust. And I mean, there's a lot of things there that are ticking at the same time. And being, emotionally intelligent and knowing what all those things are and being able to balance them and rationally, logically push your way through that stuff is that it has to be genuine. And it's really, really hard to be genuine. When I first started talking to that girl, I was the same way. I was super sexual to her. I was like, yeah, right, she's going to fuck me. This is going to be easy. And it's like, I tried for a long time, and she consistently was like, never, man, like never. I'll never, ever have sex with you. I actually think you're cool. I want to be your friend, but it's not, I have a husband. Like, there's nothing that's never going to happen. Like, and I want either, like, if you want to be friends with me, like, you're going to respect that, and and I'll just be your friend. And it's like after a while, I started to really understand it. And I was like, no, that's true. Like it is healthy to have a normal relationship with the opposite sex and there be like a real life respect and an understanding. Like and
No,
if you're
that's not what I'm saying.
yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying, okay, I get that. Like, we all have friends who are of the opposite sex. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is there's kind of something wrong with you pursuing a friendship with somebody that you had tried to, or that had tried to have sexual or tried to date you or something like that. Now, it's one thing if it was like a long time ago or something like that or whatever, but what I'm saying is that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it per se. I'm just saying I would be uncomfortable with it.
See, and that's okay to be uncomfortable. Like I said, it's about the maturity of it, like and understanding how another person feels and accepting of that, and not being like it's not weird. Like it's not a thing that it's I don't know. It would have to just be a thing between you and the person, and it would still you'd have to care about your partner's feelings. Like, hey, I know you guys are just friends, but it like makes me super uncomfortable. And if that person cares about your feelings too, the way that you care about theirs, they'll be like, even if it hurt their feelings, like to not speak to them, like, hey, you would go to your friend. I mean, a real friend, just like you and I, or one of your buddies, you'd be like, hey, dude, I think you're a fucking piece of shit for doing what you did. And they're not going to hold back. They're not going to not say something to you because they're like, they're your friend. It doesn't matter. Like, we're going to be real to each other. So if you go to your friend that's like that and you're like, hey, look, old girl that I'm with is like not having it. I'm not going to get to be able to, like, we can't talk. We're not going to be able to be friends and shit. And they can either be like, oh shit, that's fucked up. So then it becomes a thing between that if you let it, and you just have to discuss that with your friend. It has to be still real, and you have to tell your partner, like, hey, I talked to so-and-so. I told him we're not going to be talking anymore. And that may change. Like, oh, my God, you didn't have to do that for me. Or it may cause some other thing where they're like, well, I guess, you don't have to do that. It's really, really complicated. So that's what I'm saying. It's just about being open and communicating that. And if both of you are willing to sort of sacrifice